Greetings and salutations. You know what this means. It's time for some more One Talent Challenge Barbarian. Now, you're going to see a lot of hoodie weather coming up. It's getting cold where I live. And the room in which I record is not well insulated. And actually, because I use NVIDIA Broadcast, hashtag not sponsored, I have no actual, preventative measures on my walls to prevent it from sounding like I'm echoing or in a tunnel. Nothing. It literally is NVIDIA Broadcast doing all the heavy lifting. That being said, I'm recording 6 videos today. 6. This is one of 6. And I'm posting them one day, one a day per the week. And so it's just to really get it out there and so that I can have the week off because I got a lot of prep work for Thanksgiving dinner as I got to help the family prep work and everything like that. So it's one of those things. I'm doing it now. Peel off the Band-Aid, get it started, get it going. That way you don't have to do it later and you got time to relax all week. It was one of the joys of actually being a YouTuber versus streaming. Versus streaming, you have to give a reason as to why you're taking your time off and be like, oh, it's, gonna go spend time with the fam, that kind of thing. Me, on the other hand, I just have to say, oh, yes, I'm recording, and it makes it look like I'm there every day, putting in long hours at the office, or office, as it were. Not to say that YouTube is easy, and not to say that it's, not rewarding or anything like that. That's very painful. Yeah, she's dead. Yep, she's completely cooked. The poison's gonna get her. I am shocked. What is this, Pokemon? Did she make it to 1 HP? Did she make it all the way back to town? Speaking of, I'm going to be doing that again, too. Because I know that's gotten quite a bit of views. To be honest with you, you'd really think it wouldn't. But Pokemon Unite and my Nuzlocke seem to get quite a bit of views. So I will be doing those more. The Bewildered Snipes don't get a lot of views. But I still do them because I enjoy them thoroughly. And they get quite a few. This gets quite a few too, come to think of it. Because I guess people, they want to see Diablo 2 and they want to see a character die. Hardcore character bites the biscuit, news at 11. A lot of people like that. And it's going to be a long week this week. But, it's about togetherness. And you kind of have to, appreciate the whole, you get together, you spend time with the family, you spend time and have that kind of resounding moment where, you could just, I guess, it's not that you're taking things for granted. It's kind of the opposite. You're realizing how much is in your life that's not really a thankful for, but you look around and you see that you have family and you have family that cares for you and you have that connectivity with them and being able to share that time with them. And I think that's really cool. And I think that's the whole reason for the Ooh, pardon me. Orange juice kicking back on me there. I think that's the whole reasoning for the holidays. Now there are those people out there that are estranged from their family, and to those people I say, don't let it get you down. It's just because, if you are estranged from your family, it doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. I mean, conversely, it means that your family, sometimes they might have, other priorities. Right? I'm out of keys? Are you serious? Well, that's not fun. There's no keys. Oh, well. Anyway, sometimes it's just a breakdown of social dynamics. Now, Most people would kind of sit there and scratch their head and look at you funny and go, "What's social dynamics?" Well, social dynamics is a lot like hydrodynamics and or aquadynamics and aerodynamics, but socially. The social dynamics is, well, you could talk to one of your friends, and the way you talk to them and the way you interact with them is completely different than the way you interact with your mom or your grandma or your local grocer, what have you. It's completely different. It's Those are social dynamics, and those change depending around the audience. So you as the orator having a social moment with another person who is the listener audience, that social dynamic changes in such a way that um, it has the potential to be uh, highly variable, I guess, if I had to come up with an actual terminology to really ascribe to it, right? If I had to come up with an actual term, it's highly variable on the sense that the way I'm having this social dynamic with you, the viewer, right? Some people resonate with this and they will, either like the video or they'll pay attention to it and they'll watch it all the way to the end and you got that viewer metric, etc. There are some people that comment on the video, at which point you have that, and then there's another, metric and how it resonates with them. Then there are people that don't agree with it, and I've had a couple people dislike videos, which is cool. I mean, people say, "Wow, wait a minute, you didn't have a problem with somebody disliking your video?" No, not at all. I mean, if people don't like it, they don't like it. That's just how it is. Now, it doesn't bother me in the least. It's not going to dissuade me from making content, and it's not going to stop me from doing anything, really. Um, However, the social dynamics change all the time. Now, a perfect example for social dynamics, okay, and how social dynamics differ. Anybody that's out there in the dating scene will kind of relate to this. If you're a guy and you're out there and you're dating a single mother, you're going to sit there, and if you're talking and the single mother has a child who's between the ages of, say, 5 and 15, that mom has disciplined that child for the first 5 years, right? The child and the mother have a disciplinary structure, they have a social structure, they have a social dynamic that is set. The child knows that when a mother says something or does something, that social dynamic cue says, "Hey, okay, I'm going to be punished for what I'm doing because it's wrong." You, as the outsider into this scenario, don't know that. So you don't know how to handle the social dynamic between the child and their parent. This puts a strain on the social dynamic in the relationship between you and her parent, or the child, the child's parent, because let's say you want to be helpful, and so you offer up a way to discipline the child, but in your way of disciplining the child, it's completely backwards and counterproductive and counterintuitive to how the parent normally disciplined the child, and therefore is now puts a social strain on your social dynamic. This is why if you're going to go out into the dating field, you're going to want to have that long discussion with the parent about the social dynamics and how they're working out with their children. Because the children are also going to be like, "You're not my real dad," and they're going to pull that, right? You'll try to say something like, "Hey, be nice to your mother," or "be kind to your mother," something along those lines, and the child will look you right square in the eyes and be like, "You're not my real dad." Well, they know this. They know that you're not the real dad, but they're saying it in an effort to hurt you or to drive a wedge, because to a child, you're now taking up part of their mother's time, and children by nature tend to be possessive of their parents and possessive of time of their friends even. I mean, that's just children. I know this. My niece and my nephew are very much like this. They get very possessive about things, people, attention, and especially if they're an only child, it's even doubly so. So understanding the social dynamic is really helpful in being able to navigate that relationship with the mom and being able to take it forward. So you're probably wondering, okay, why is it between the ages of 5 and 15? Okay, let's say you start dating a single mom whose child is one and a half. Okay? You start dating her, that child has no point of reference as to what your role is. As far as that child knows, you are the father figure in the relationship, in the whole family dynamic, and in the whole social dynamic. You're the father figure. Okay? And so they understand that. And it settles into their head, and so when they get older, they see you there, and they see you as a semi-permanent fixture, meaning, you come and go. You're not living there all the time. Sometimes you would be living there, right? At which point, again, they still see you as a semi-permanent fixture, where they can then make a reference point and say, oh, okay, this is the fatherly influence, right? Now, why is the cutoff age, say, 15? And here's why. Now they're old enough to understand the relationship dynamic between their parent and, this new person. And they know that you're not trying to supplant their actual father. They understand this. Whether or not the father's actually in the picture is one thing. But they understand what it is, because usually by the age of 15, give or take, they've had that, you know, childhood sweetheart, first date, first relationship that they've had growing up in school. Most of them usually have their first boyfriend or girlfriend by the age of 14, especially nowadays, which is too young if you ask me. I'm an old fuddy-duddy. It's like you can worry about starting a relationship, when you're 18, 19, that kind of thing. I'm an old fuddy. I'm an old individual. I believe in the old school, you know, long um, courtship. That's what I believe in. Long-term courtship. Anyway, you've got this. They have a point of reference in which to say, okay, this person isn't my father. I know they're not my father, but they could talk to you as an adult. They could talk to you on an even keel and say, you know what, I need advice. And then ask you a question and ask you for advice. And you can offer them advice. You can offer them a world perspective that you've earned through experience of living in the world. And that creates a different social dynamic bond between you and people that are about 15-ish. I should know this because if you know Dylan, I mean, he's got his own YouTube channel, much larger than mine, and he's got well over 1 million people on TikTok that follow him. He's a friend of mine. I met him through his mother. And when I met him through his mother, and I've mentioned this a bunch of times. I met him through his mom. His mom's real nice person. And when I met him, I had long discussions with him, and he was 14 at the time, and I had long discussions with him about this whole, you're trying to, you should do something in your life that you're passionate about. Find something you're passionate about and indulge in it. A marketable passion. And I had that discussion with him. And it's what got him to go down the line of doing TikTok. And it didn't really matter to me what he did. I mean, I just wanted to see him not go down a dark path in life. Now, his father wasn't anywhere in the picture. So he kind of looked up to me as a fatherly figure, as a male role model that he could take a look at and say, you know what? He's right. It makes a whole lot of sense. What he's saying there is making a whole lot of sense. And I merely just asked him questions like, what is it you want to do with your life? And he didn't know. I said, well, you have the perfect time in the world to think about it. It's like you go to school, you come back, and what do? You have nothing to do all day. You got plenty of time to think about it and put one foot forward in front of the other. Take those 4 years, build on something. And he did. And boy, did he ever. And now he's a success. So that's what I mean about having that positive social dynamic. Anywhere in that age of like I said, 5 to 15 is you have that rebellious youth that doesn't want to listen. You have that teenage youth that's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just intruding on the family, and they're going to be rebellious in that way. That causes a strain. And the majority of failed relationships are because of a failed social dynamic. Remember what they say? They say communication is key. I say comprehension is key. Because you can communicate all you want, but if the other side doesn't get it, it's all dim bulb syndrome. Never going to happen. Just won't. Because you're going to be basically talking to this brick wall over here, like, trying to convince them that something should be different. And having that communication and having those social dynamics is that's it's just the way that the world is. Everybody's got a different social dynamic. The discussions I have with, my friend Dylan and his mom are completely different than the discussions I have with my friend Tyler, which is completely different from the discussions I have with my friend Taylor. And, they're completely different from discussions I have with some of my international friends. And I don't even get to physically see my international friends, but the discussions I have with them are way different. And that's pretty much in a nutshell what I meant by social dynamics. Because it's going to change from person to person. It's a variable. And the more people understand that social dynamic can happen, the better off it is. Because the better off you will be. Because then you could sit there and actually have a substantive discussion with somebody and not have it go off into the weeds and have people at each other's throats being angry with one another. And that's the truth. I know this because I sat down the other day and I had a discussion with one of my friends, and they they were on the other side of the political spectrum, right? And we sat down and we were talking about policy. We weren't talking about identity politics. We weren't talking about anything divisive. And that's all identity politics is, by the way. It's all just divisiveness. Identity politics serves to deepen or widen the gap between two people. That's it. Its whole design, its whole thing is rooted in tearing people apart via differences. So we had a substantive discussion about policy. And when we sat down and we talked about policy, we sat there, we're like, we agree on pretty much everything. Like 80 to 90% of what we talked about, we were in agreement. And yet we were diametrically opposed on the political spectrum. I was one way on the political spectrum. They leaned the other way on the political spectrum. I said, but if you noticed, if you really, really noticed, look at what we agreed on. Even though we don't agree on the method they go about it, we still agreed on the base. And that's the whole point of having a good social dynamic. They used to call it being a silver-tongued devil, or the gift of the gab, as they would say. And so it's one of those things. It's like understanding how a conversation can be built or destroyed based on how you navigate a social dynamic. It can really change a lot of things. Now, that's not always the case. There are going to be people that they're going to shut down the moment you try talking to them. And that's fine. They're allowed to. That's part of social dynamics as well. I don't agree with it, as it doesn't help anybody to have that to shut down in a conversation. But to each their own proclivities. I mean, personally, I would take it another way and try to get them to open back up and have that conversation. But again, you can't force it open. We're almost at Endario. And I've been here prattling on about social dynamics for almost a half hour. Interesting as they may be. Good thing she missed. Oh, that's not good. Well, you just bring your big old hoofed feet out here and come and get me. Ow. Ow. That's very painful. As I say, I just picked up a cracked dirk. I don't want the garbage. Wanted to kill the other mob that's there, hitting me. Ow. Unfortunately, I don't want to die to Endariel's poison, so I'm gonna have to dip out. I got close, though. I got close to taking her on, one-on-one like that. Kind of a shame that I couldn't, but is what it is, I guess.
Let the gate be opened.
Really? I was gonna say no portal, and it just finally showed up. I can't even use those. Ooh, half freeze duration. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to do that. I need it. I mean, that's a plus, though. I did it. And Dariel's death brings a bad. So all she's doing is running her mouth.
Yes?
Thanks, Wareve. Don't worry about it. Yes, greetings, honored traveler. When the troubles first began, blah blah blah.
Yes? Hey.
Oh, Graze. Not Graze. Geglash. Geglash is great. And I do want to take the gear off her. It's not the best, but it'll have to do. Now, where do I really want to go with the prayer one? Yeah, I think I do. Al Hazir. Yeah, man. No, you won't. He says he will, but he won't. That's. Act 2 mercenaries are really good. at the beginning, and then they just become a complete potato about halfway through, and then they get better as the time goes on. But it's that moment that they're a potato that you just admit that's not bad. No way. No way. Hold on. Hold on. Oh, where is it here? Item group. I'm looking up rune words right now. Pretty sure stealth is Tal F. Yep, it's Tal F, and that's exactly what I have. That's crazy. Well, what do you know? Can't wear it yet. Not for another 3 levels. Which is kind of weird that my barbarian did end Dario quicker than my druid. It's really curious. You know what? I'll make this one only 26 minutes, give or take. I'm glad you were here for the talk about social dynamics, as weird as that was. That's the thing. I get into a very philosophical mindset. And sometimes I take a look at societal ills, and I like to try to diagnose what's going on and kind of, you know, add in possibly a new perspective, and that's about it. And I think that my perspectives are rather intriguing. I don't like to, I mean, I really don't like putting on such a heavy, how do I want to put this? Kind of like a heavy spin on every single Diablo series, but I can't really help it because I mean, I could be lighthearted and fun through here, but the problem is my mind just wanders and goes into like this deep philosophical discussion, and then I just can't help myself. It's fun and interesting for me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But if you enjoyed it, I hope you did, and I'm glad you did. And I enjoyed making it. As always, I hope everybody has a fantastic evening, a wonderful tomorrow, and have a good one.